Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're tackling Block 1 of your Master's in Psychology program today.
That's right, all about cognitive psychology learning and memory.
I know, right? Those exams can be a little intimidating.
Definitely a lot to cover. But that's why we're here.
To break it all down, make it a bit more manageable.
Exactly. We'll unpack those dense textbook chapters and hopefully make it all a bit more relatable and fun.
Yeah, give you some of those aha moments that make studying so rewarding.
And equip you with those key insights you need to really thrive in this course.
So it's like sitting down with your favorite study buddy and tackling this material together.
That's the vibe we're going for.
Perfect. So today we're going to hit the highlights of cognitive psychology from its historical roots to key research methods.
Then we'll delve into how we learn and remember those different types of memory.
Oh, and we can't forget those influential theories that always pop up on exams.
Like Bloom's taxonomy and Sternberg's information processing approach?
Exactly. And finally, we'll get into the neuropsychology of it all, how our brains physically support all these amazing cognitive feats.
Sounds like a plan. Ready to get started.
Absolutely. Let's dive into Unit 1, Cognitive Psychology.
All right. So first things first, what exactly cognitive psychology?
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
Well, it's basically the study of how our minds work.
Okay, so how we perceive the world around us.
Right. How we pay attention, learn new things, remember information, solve problems, make decisions, and even use language.
It's like the science of thought, all those mental processes we just take for granted every day.
Exactly. And it's more relevant than you might think.
Oh, I bet. Like why? I can never seem to catch all my typos when I'm proofreading.
Exactly. Or why it's so hard to take good notes in class while actually absorbing what the professor's saying.
Ugh, yes. That's definitely me. So how did this whole field of study even come about?
Well, it's been quite a journey.
I can imagine.
The roots actually go way back to ancient philosophers like Plato and Aristotle.
Wow, so they were pondering the nature of thought and knowledge even back then.
Oh, yeah, big time. Plato argued for the brain as the seat of thought, but Aristotle, he thought it was the heart.
The heart, that's interesting.
Can you imagine?
So I guess that's where the phrase follow your heart comes from.
Maybe. But seriously, that's a long way from where we are now in terms of our understanding.
That's for sure.
So fast forward through centuries of debate, and we land in the 19th century where psychology starts to emerge as a scientific discipline.
Okay, so we're finally starting to apply the scientific method to the mind.
Exactly. And figures like Wundt and James were pioneers establishing experimental psychology.
I remember them from my intro psych class.
They really paved the way exploring topics like perception, attention, and consciousness.
So then what? What happened next in the evolution of cognitive psychology?
Well, the early 20th century brought about some major schools of thought like behaviorism.
Behaviorism, right? Focusing only on observable behaviors.
Exactly. The idea was to make psychology more objective and scientific.
By studying only what you could see and measure.
But of course, behaviorism had its limitations.
Yeah, it couldn't explain everything right, like how we learn language or form those more complex thoughts.
You got it. And that's where the cognitive revolution comes, in a shift back to studying those internal mental processes that behaviorism had ignored.
Ah, so a return to the mind.
And you know, it was a big catalyst for this revolution.
What's that?
The rise of computers in the mid-20th century.
Ah, the brain as an information processor.
Precisely. Input processing output was a powerful analogy.
That makes sense. It really shaped research methods and theories moving forward.
For sure.
So speaking of research methods, what kind of tools do cognitive psychologists use to actually study the mind?
Good question. It's not like we can just peer inside and see what's happening.
Right, it's all kind of hidden.
But we've got some pretty amazing tools at our disposal.
Like what?
Well, we use experiments to test hypotheses. We use psychobiological research with brain imaging techniques like PE scans and fMRI.
Wow, so we can actually see different brain regions lighting up as someone's thinking.
You got it.
That's amazing.
We also use self-reports, case studies, and naturalistic observations.
So a whole range of methods to get a more complete picture.
Exactly. Each method has its strengths and limitations, but together they give us a pretty multifaceted view.
Like putting together a giant puzzle.
Precisely. And with that puzzle in mind, there are some big enduring debates that cognitive psychologists grapple with.
Okay, spill the tea. I love a good debate.
Well, there's the classic nature versus nurture debate.
Ah, the age-old question. Are cognitive abilities determined by our genes or our environment?
Exactly. It's a question that researchers are still exploring, and the answer is likely a complex interplay of both.
I can see that.
Then there's rationalism versus empiricism.
Do we gain knowledge through reason or through experience?
You got it. This one goes way back and still influences how we think about learning and development.
It's fascinating to think about.
And lastly, there's the structure versus process debate.
Okay, so should we focus on those basic building blocks of cognition or on the dynamic flow of information in the mind?
You nailed it. The parts or the whole, the pieces or the symphony.
These debates might seem abstract, but they have real-world implications.
For sure, for how we approach research, education, even clinical practice.
It's like those big questions in philosophy that never really go away.
Exactly. And that's what makes cognitive psychology so exciting. It's always pushing the boundaries of what we know about ourselves.
I love that.
But before we get too philosophical, are you ready to dive into the world of learning and memory?
Let's do it. I'm ready for Unit 2.
All right. On to Unit 2, where we explore the dynamic duo learning and memory.
Oh, they go hand in hand, don't they?
You can't really talk about one without the other.
True. You can't have memories without learning something first, right?
Exactly. So let's start with learning.
Okay, sounds good.
It's not just about memorizing facts for exams.
Right, it's so much more than that.
It's about acquiring knowledge, new behaviors, skills, and even values.
It's how we adapt and grow based on our experiences.
Exactly. And that brings us to memory, the outcome of learning the proof that something has actually stuck with us.
Okay, I remember from intro psych that there are different types of memory,
There are.
but it's all a bit fuzzy now, to be honest.
No worries, we can refresh those.
Okay, thanks.
First, we have sensory memory.
Okay, sensory memory.
Think of it as that fleeting glimpse.
Like a snapshot.
Yeah, a super brief recording of what your senses are picking up.
So it's like an echo of a sound?
Yes. Or the trail of light from a sparkler. Gone almost as quickly as it appears.
Wow, that's a good way to put it. So our senses are capturing these snapshots all the time.
All the time, but most of them fade away before we even have a chance to process them.
That makes sense.
And that's where attention comes in. It's like a filter selecting what gets passed on to the next stage. Short-term memory.
So what we focus on is what we're most likely to remember.
Exactly.
That's probably why I can walk through a room and barely register what's there if I'm not really paying attention.
Makes sense. Now, short-term memory, also called working memory, is where things get interesting.
Okay, working memory.
It's our mental workspace, where we hold information we're actively thinking about, juggling ideas, solving problems, making decisions.
But isn't short-term memory really limited?
It is notoriously limited.
Like trying to juggle too many balls at once, eventually you're going to drop a few.
That's a good analogy. Miller's magic number 7 plus or minus 2 suggests that we can only hold about 5 to 9 chunks of information in short-term memory.
Oh, right, Miller's magic number. That's why phone numbers are usually 7 digits long.
You got it.
Yeah.
Right at the edge of what we can easily remember.
So are there any ways to get around those limitations?
There are, like chunking.
Chunking.
By grouping information into meaningful units, we can actually remember more. Think about how we remember phone numbers.
Not as 7 individual digits.
But as groups of 3 or 4.
Right, it's like compressing a file to make it smaller and easier to manage.
Exactly. So we've talked about sensory memory and short-term memory, but what about information we want to remember for longer than a few seconds?
Yeah, how does that get stored?
That's where long-term memory comes in.
Long-term memory. The big one.
It's the vast storehouse of our knowledge, experiences, and skills. Seemingly unlimited capacity.
It's a lot of storage space.
It is. It's the difference between a sticky note and a hard drive.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Short-term memory is temporary, easily lost. Long-term memory is more durable, can last for years.